hidden waterfalls, and giant sequoias, Half Dome and El Capitan. This startling, uncompromising landscape contains some of the most incredible natural wonders in America. From hiking and climbing to wining and cliffside dining, we've got all the secrets of hidden Yosemite. Thousands of tired, nerve-shaken, over-civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home. That wilderness is a necessity. John Muir made that poetic observation in 1886. But his words ring even truer today. And if civilization has got you down, maybe the antidote is right here, like it's always been. Wild, pristine, awe-inspiring, eternal, yet ever-changing.
In the entire world, there's only one Yosemite Valley. It's surrounded by the waterfalls that are half a mile high and cliffs that are even higher, and the wonderful Half Dome in El Capitan, and some spectacular scenery you just can't find anywhere else.
Roughly the size of Rhode Island, Yosemite is one of the jewels in the crown of America's national park system. Its 750,000 acres attract over 4 million visitors annually. Yosemite was first recognized as a national treasure back in 1864. Even in the midst of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln and Congress took time to pass legislation that ensured this wilderness would be preserved for all of us, for all time. But despite its long history, there's still a lot about Yosemite that remained a secret. That is, until now. We begin at the top, the very top, at what is probably one of the most famous slabs of granite in America, Half Dome. This 87-million-year-old, mile-high icon is literally of mythic proportions. According to legend, Half Dome came to be after a dispute between the Indian maiden Tissiac and her husband.
Disruption occurred when they began arguing. So they were disrupting the peace of this valley. The disruption upset the creator who was watching from above. So in order to teach them a lesson, he turned each of them into stone. And so Tissiac became Half Dome, and then her husband became the Washington Column.
The moral of the story? Disturb the peace in this valley and watch out. But that's not to say you can't have some fun on these granite cliffs. In fact, every year, people come from all over the world to test their mettle on these sheer walls by rock climbing. And we found the most popular place to go is directly across from Half Dome, El Capitan.
Yosemite is a great place to climb a rock because the solid walls, some of the hardest granite in the world on El Capitan. Second of all, because it's so darn beautiful, you know? There's nowhere you can climb where you won't get an amazing vista.
And going up in the top, it's just absolutely beautiful. It's breathtaking once you get up there.
And as we came around our ridge, there was a double rainbow on the mist of the water. It was just incredible. There's some spectacular scenery that you just you can't see, can't read in a book, you can't see it in a picture. You got to be here and experience it.
The average ascent of El Capitan is probably 4 days. Oh, it's great fun. It's a wonderful place to be, especially when there's bad weather, because you're sitting up basically in the balcony seat of the most wonderful theater you've ever seen.
But if you'd rather have a front row seat, you may want to check out the classes at the Yosemite Mountaineering School. The beginner's class will put you on the face in no time.
If I holler, look out, look out.
This is us.
And survival is guaranteed. Well, almost.
Are any of you scared of heights? As guides, we like it better when there's a little realistic fear of heights.
It looks pretty tall.
And we found out the first secret to mastering rock climbing in Yosemite isn't about going up. It's about getting back down.
Sounds pretty easy, but it's real intimidating to walk backwards off the cliff.
Go,
Yeah, just walk down
Okay.
as you let the rope slide through your hand. There you go, right there.
This is way cool. Yeah, she just said while we're out here we needed to go rock climbing, and who am I to argue with my wife?
But just take it slow and steady, you know?
And once you've mastered going down, there's no place to go but up.
Step
And
up on
here
it.
they say it's no problem.
Foothold, step up, put my foot on the foothold, get my weight over that foothold, step up. That's how you want to climb.
Sounds simple enough, but it's not quite that easy.
Don't do it that, because you don't go be there to help me.
For here?
We have many levels of climbing classes here. By the end of the day, it's great fun to watch. You see them progress from not really knowing even what they're going to be doing all the way through to, you know, a team of them walk up to a climb and climb it on their own effectively.
Good work!
Once climbers know what to do, the cliffs are theirs to enjoy. And we found a secret inside some of those finger nooks and toe holds high on the face of El Capitan. Secrets that even some of the most seasoned climbers don't know.
One of the secrets, I would say, is that you'll find bats.
Bats? Sounds scary? According to Patricia Winter of the California Bat Conservation Fund, it shouldn't be.
We have some serious misconceptions about bats in North America. We demonize bats in our culture. They are used as Halloween icons, used in the movies to tell you the bad part's coming. And so people grow up with this movie bat on their head. And the real bats are so different.
And here's something you might not know. Patricia says if you have some outdated fear of bats, all you have to do is get to know these creatures and you'll get over it.
This is Cream Puff, a hoary bat who lives right here in the park. Her color is camouflage. She has a 17-inch wingspan. She roosts in foliage and pretends to be a dead leaf in summer. She flies about 6,000 miles a year. She goes from Chile to up above the Arctic Circle.
Yosemite is home to 15 species of bat, some quite rare. And here's something you might not know. These bats are invaluable in keeping the pesky mosquito population within the park low.
When you come up to Yosemite, you will notice that 2 minutes after dusk, all the mosquitoes disappear. And that's because that's when the first bats come out.
But eating bugs can be dangerous. This little fella's fondness for mosquitoes nearly cost him his life.
He saw some women hikers that had a huge cloud of mosquitoes around them, and so he did what every bat does. He went over to start eating those mosquitoes. And one of the women saw him, started screaming, getting hysterical. She had picked up a board and hit Rufus over the head, and she fractured his skull. It took Rufus 3 months to learn how to walk a straight line, and he cannot remember how to fly.
So if you do see a bat, don't panic. They're not looking to bite. They're looking for dinner. Yosemite has 1,190 square miles of wilderness, and over 4 million people come to hike through it. But here's something you might not know. All the rugged trails have been carefully carved into the scenery, and we found out who does all that painstaking work. This is the group known as the Trail Crew. And with 750 miles of man-made pathways to create and maintain, this is no easy job.
There's the Half Dome Trail, which is very popular, and many people do that as a day hike. Other people do it as a backpack because it's about a 15-mile round trip, I think. Those trails get hammered.
To keep these trails in shape, it takes good old-fashioned time and hard work. And here's a secret: technology hasn't intruded on this process.
The primary sources we use are human power, just rolling rocks. We call it piss anting. Like a piss ant can roll something like 100 times its weight. Well, we call ourselves piss ants. We use pulling teams and single pulling animals in harness, pulling what we call a stone boat. It's age-old machine, just a sled that we can flop the rocks onto. The teamster drives them to where we're needed. Use mules with dirt boxes or stone boxes where we can load dirt or stone and get it to the site.
The trails are built to last. And to keep the man-made walls strong, the Trail Crew uses an ancient technique called dry masonry, where rocks are carefully fitted together without mortar. The secret to why this method works so well is it can withstand rain.
If this wall were a wet wall, had mortar in it, we'd be capturing water and overloading the structure. The beauty of drywall is that it's strong and it allows water to flow through.
And since this crew creates the trails, we knew they'd know the best trails, so we got the inside scoop from one of the pros.
My favorite trail is the Red Peak Pass Trail, just for the beauty. As far as the structure of the trail itself and the quality of the rock work, I really like all the trails leaving the valley here.
I want to welcome everybody to one of my favorite places in the whole world. This is the trailhead. Well, I'm excited. Let's head out.
And we found out that if you like to hike and you prefer a challenge, Yosemite Guides offers off-trail hikes, perfect for those who would rather take the road less traveled.
We're going to hike down a climber trail. It's a pretty secret place. Not many people go here except climbers, and even in the climbing guide, it doesn't really tell you how to get here. What's so special about this hike is the final destination is incredible.
Wow, look at that.
It's one of the secret places of Yosemite.
And if hiking makes you hungry, this seems like the place to be. This trek through Yosemite includes a gourmet meal served cliffside.
Well, for dinner we have smoked salmon, hummus, some vegetables, pita bread. Yeah, it's a pretty great dinner.
I think the best secret of Yosemite is doing these special hikes where you go to a nice spot and be able to eat a nice dinner and check out the sights.
After dinner, the guides lead you to the most exhilarating and the most dangerous moment of the hike.
Ow, 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 hold my feet.
The main reason we're doing this is to look at the view and just lay there, relax, take it all in, take a deep breath, and just spend a few minutes looking down at the view.
It's a head rush, it's a tummy rush, it's an everything rush.
I love it. It's really cool.
Okay, it's time to get going. So as you back up, just back up really slowly. Don't stand up until you get back pretty far away from the edge, like a body's length back.
It's time for a closing ritual, a reading of inspiring quotes about this extraordinary place.
While on the contrary, haze, mist, and the haunting spirits of the mountains are what human nature seeks, and yet can rarely find.
Any direction and taste the freedom of the mountaineer. Climb the mountains and get their good tidings. Nature's peace will flow into you.
Only one to be poor enough.
one is speedily absorbed into the spiritual values of things.
These mountain fires that glow in one's blood are free to all, but I cannot
Civilized people are beginning to find out that going to the mountains is going home.
Somehow, this is the ultimate Yosemite moment. Bathed in golden light, embraced by the canyon, you blend into the breathtaking backdrop as if you belong there, and you do. The majesty of this place inspires a feeling of profound awe and respect. Here in Yosemite, nature and all of her processes are revered. Being in the presence of this magnificent scenery is an experience that leaves otherwise articulate people struggling for words. But perhaps being speechless is the appropriate response. Be silent. And if you listen close, maybe you will hear these timeless wonders whisper their secrets.
Fast, so let's go. Let's
hurry.
take a walk up this ladder.
This off-trail experience is filled with highlights and people who know the terrain. But in Yosemite, if you're on your own and you're not paying attention, things can get dangerous real fast.
The wilderness is a deceiving beast. It's beautiful and we all want to get there, but a lot of us with our one-week vacations a year out of our jobs, we underestimate the power of nature and wilderness in general. We probably ranged between 200 and 400 searches or rescues a year. When we go onto the walls, the danger is quite high. Most of the team members are significant climbers. Most of our team is multidisciplined. And most of these rescues are very time and dollar intensive. And they're going to take us a lot of manpower to pull them off. What we see here a little bit in Yosemite are just poor decision making. These are folks coming from urban areas and they're just not using their head. Kind of do it all, and the team members, we play off each other with our strengths and weaknesses, and we come up with a good, rounded team.
Here in Yosemite, the search and rescue team trains year-round to be ready to respond to anything.
With 3 to 4 million visitors coming a year, and with the complexity of the terrain here, we run the gauntlet here of the things that we can do in a rescue scenario.
Get real aggressive with the thing. Swim at it hard.
One scenario they continually train for is swift water rescue.
Bump over it.
The reason? The snowmelt creates dangerous high water conditions, and the team needs to be prepared.
The exercise we're about to do today is a self-preservation thing. Just an exercise if we were to be swimming down the river and we were to come on this hazard, this obstacle, how we would get ourselves over it.
In a water rescue, seconds count. The objective in this exercise is to go over the log, which is a lot harder than it looks. At 42 degrees, the water is cold, and for most people, it can be deadly.
When you get into that cold water, a lot of people go into a panic state, and they stop thinking, their brain actually shuts down.
But members of the rescue team are trained to react while under pressure.
It's fun, it's definitely challenging trying to get over that log.
But you don't get to be a member of Yosemite Search and Rescue if you're easily discouraged. These people don't know the meaning of the word quit. And every year they rescue hundreds of people. So if you're planning a trip to the park, you may want to listen to some sound advice.
Goes back to, I would say, the Boy Scout motto, and that's always be prepared. But a map and a compass, in most instances, are going to assist you in getting your bearings and letting you know where you are. The last thing I would say is just know your limitations and don't exceed them. If the best you do is walk from the parking deck up to your office building. Don't think that maybe a 24-mile round trip hike up Half Dome is the best thing for you to do your first day of your vacation.
So if you come here, try easing into your vacation and live to come back another year. The mountains, the waterfalls, the wildlife all say Yosemite. And although the scene looks gentle and benign now, don't get too comfortable. Here in Yosemite, Mother Nature packs a powerful punch. And every 100 years, she lets loose with a fury. On New Year's Eve 1996, Yosemite was hit by the 100-year flood. And as the name implies, an event of this magnitude comes along only once a century.
In December of 1996, we had an unusually large snowpack, but well over 150% of normal. And then starting on New Year's Eve, December 31st, it started to rain. And it was a warm rain, and it rained very high.
The snowpack quickly melted, leading to a massive runoff. Floodwaters thundered through the valley, washing out everything in its path. Campgrounds, picnic areas, hotels, and roads.
There were about 900 employees and about 900 visitors here for New Year's Eve that became trapped in the valley. Basically, Yosemite Valley turned into one enormous lake. So I'm about 6'2", and the flood was about this high.
And here's a secret. The park tracks the rain with an informal record kept here in the garage of the old park superintendent's house.
When you get down here, May 16th, 1996, just a foot off the ground. December 23rd, 1941, it's 44 inches deep here. November 19th, 1950, 66 inches high. December 23rd, 1955, a flood in 1983, and then way up here in the rafters is where the water was in 1997.
After the flood in 1997, Yosemite Park Services moved quickly to repair the damage, estimated into the tens of millions of dollars. Today, this area is still recovering. But here's something you might not know. These floods are important for the overall good of the park.
Well, the flooding is considered a disaster to us, to humans, but to the wildlife and to the natural ecosystem, it's just a part of the events that go on naturally. And in fact, actually the wildlife and the ecosystem is adapted to flooding, and in fact needs periodic flooding in order to spread nutrients around.
But thousands of years of nature's wrath hasn't disturbed the serenity of one of the most magical places in all of Yosemite, the Mariposa Grove, home of the giant sequoia.
Giant sequoias are not the tallest trees on the face of the earth, and surprisingly, they're not the oldest trees on the face of the earth. But these trees are the largest living thing that have ever existed on the planet Earth.
The Mariposa Grove is the biggest of 3 sequoia groves within the park. It covers about 4 square miles and contains about 500 mature giants. The tallest is the Washington tree. At 225 feet, it's the 18th largest sequoia on Earth.
One reason why sequoias get so big is they don't grow old in the common sense of the word. Whether they're 200 years old or several thousand years old, they retain that youthful vigor.
And because they live through generations of people, they have been some of the most photographed trees in the world. And thanks to those photographs, every year tourists come searching for certain sequoias they've seen. The most asked about tree? The tunnel tree. And here's something you may not know. It's this one, or what's left of it.
But a little bit more than 30 years ago, we had an extremely heavy snowstorm with high winds here, and the famous Ahwahnee tunnel tree, probably the most famous tree on the face of the earth, fell to the ground.
And we found out why this tree fell and why the others withstood the storm.
You can imagine a tree that's been hollowed out like this, like our tunnel trees, are more likely going to topple over.
The most popular tree still standing in the park is this one. They call it the grizzly giant because it was named after the grizzly bears who roamed this wilderness before they became an endangered species. This sequoia is 27.5 feet in diameter and estimated to be 1,790 years old. And the great grizzly has seen it all and survived it all.
This tree has survived in excess of 100, perhaps as many as 1,000 forest fires. In fact, one day this tree was struck by lightning 3 times and the top actually caught on fire.
And here's a secret. These trees not only survive fire, they depend on it.
The giant sequoias are dependent on fire. When the cone is heated up, it causes the seed to pop open and flip its seed out on the ground. The second thing a fire does for the sequoia is that it burns all the litter and duff on the ground, so when that seed pops out of the cone, it lands in a nice seed bed, which acts as a fertilizer to help that seed grow.
And if you're wondering why the sequoias don't burn up with flames dancing on top of them, well, we found out there's a reason for that as well.
Sequoias aren't as flammable as the other trees of the forest for several reasons. Their bark is quite soft and surprisingly just doesn't catch on fire as readily as other trees of the forest. Also, most evergreen trees have a high level of terpenes in them. That's a very flammable resin that makes up part of their sap. Sequoia trees, instead of having a high level of terpenes, have a high level of water, and so they're much less flammable.
And although these trees seem to be immune to fire, the rest of the park isn't. And we found out why the park is sometimes badly in need of a good burn.
My own personal secret of Yosemite is that it's a magical place, and it was made magical in part by fire being an occasional visitor as well.
So to keep Yosemite safe, fires are regularly set on purpose. They're called prescribed burns.
Prescribed burning is man's attempt to mimic what nature would do. If we weren't here, lightning fires would be doing the regular burning and maintenance for us. What we're walking up here to is a burn we did in 1999. It's called the YV9 burn, Yosemite Valley 9. And I like to take visitors up here and interested parties who are interested about prescribed fire in Yosemite Valley, because it's such a stark contrast here. Looking at what we burned 2 years ago on this side, and then looking over here what it looks like without fire. And you can just see the real difference.
Which brings us to the second reason for prescribed burns. Fires keep the landscape clear and preserve the famous view.
What we're looking at here is an area that hasn't burned for probably 80 years at least. And you can see the thick vegetation, how dense it is. You have a tough time even hiking through there. And you're looking at a burn here that we did 2 years ago. And you can notice the contrast, how open it is. You can actually see Cathedral Rock in the background, where in the other shot we couldn't even see El Capitan, which is right behind us.
And they say, as long as you can control the burn by knowing exactly what you are doing, when you are doing it, and where you are doing it, the fire will preserve nature's beauty. With all the natural wonders in Yosemite, sometimes it's difficult for amazing man-made history to take center stage. But we found you can't really understand the park without understanding a part of her past. Back around the turn of the 20th century, there was a group of men who guarded the park. They were African-American soldiers, members of the 24th and 25th Cavalry, but better known as Buffalo Soldiers. Their name came from the Plains Indians, who thought the hair on the heads of the troops resembled the hair on the neck of a buffalo. Today, the Buffalo Soldiers are brought to life through one park ranger. This is Shelton Johnson, and he has made it his business to know these men from the inside out.
Well, it feels like putting on a glove at this point. I just become this other individual. I don't consider it acting, because acting is a performance. I don't consider it a performance. I've gotten so deeply into a lot of this history that it's just like putting on clothing. It's like putting the uniform on. I put the uniform on, and I just become this different individual. All right, I'm Elise Bowman, Sergeant with the 9th Cavalry. Pleased to meet you, ma'am.
Shelton interprets the history of the men so tourists can get a real feel for the Buffalo Soldier.
I'm here to answer questions that you have about the Army. If you don't have questions, this will be a really short conversation. Now I'm going to get back to my horse.
Shelton shares what he knows while joking and laughing.
He didn't think we were going to fight. And he said, he's from Alabama, too. And he said, there's no one that's more willing than to shoot a Confederate than an ex-slave from Alabama.
Hello?
Yeah.
Is there one around here?
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
But this is a role he takes very seriously.
From the South you're from. And I'm only one of 2 African-American rangers in the park. And to find that 100 years ago, people who looked like me had a similar capacity, held a similar office in terms of that whole issue of stewardship, of protecting places like Yosemite and Sequoia. I mean, that does something to you inside, to know that, well, I'm not all that unusual, I'm not all that rare. Other people have done this before me, and so it makes me feel more connected. So what I'm wearing is a Spanish-American War period uniform, starting with the shoes to the leggings, the spurs, the pants. Well, the stripes indicate my rank. When you see these stripes here, that indicates that I'm a sergeant.
And here's something you might not know. There were over 450 soldiers stationed here around 1904. And if that doesn't sound impressive, remember, this was a very difficult time in American history.
The attitudes that they had to encounter in terms of racism, not just in the park, but in the nation as a whole. It was a time in which African Americans were lynched routinely in the Deep South. The attitudes toward African Americans was definitely at a low point. So to be in that kind of atmosphere, that kind of social atmosphere, and to be in a position of authority was something that I think most visitors, or many visitors, were just not used to, and they probably were uncomfortable with, taking orders from a black man. So I think that they had that added burden upon them that the other soldiers who were European American did not have. And they did it, but they did their job.
Today, the era of the Buffalo Soldier is preserved here in Yosemite's Pioneer Village. Once you cross the covered bridge, you literally take a step back in time. But the Buffalo Soldiers are left to Yosemite's past.
Yosemite Victor 24.
Today, park law enforcement is carried out by Yosemite's park rangers.
Typical example of tourist driving. They're just not paying attention. There's a ranger vehicle stopped in the road for a reason, and this car decided that it was going to pass on the double yellow and go around them. They'll probably end up with a verbal or written warning.
The rangers go easy on minor traffic violators, but here's a secret. More serious offenders could end up here in the Yosemite jail.
The reason that we have a jail here in this park is because we have such a large volume of arrests, and also we are a large distance from another facility that can take our prisoners.
The Yosemite jail has 6 cells, and it's usually occupied, especially during the summer.
We make an average of about 350 arrests per year. Types of instances that you would be arrested may be a juvenile that's shoplifting, an individual that's driving under the influence, an assault, and perhaps hunting in the park.
And although they can get tough when they have to, more typically the park rangers act as friendly liaisons between the visitors and nature.
How you guys doing tonight? Doing good, thanks. Have fun. How you doing tonight?
That's terrific. How are you?
Good. What's for dinner?
Where's the bare trash cans?
There's one actually right there. Just make sure you clip it when you're done, because otherwise the bears crawl in there and fall in. All right?
Gotcha.
You folks have a good evening.
Keeping bears away from campgrounds and picnic areas is a constant concern. The rangers remind campers to store their food in the big brown containers located throughout the park. Locking food up in your car is a no-no. Take a look at this video. They say your car looks like a giant cooler to the bear.
There's really no reason for folks not to be able to store their food properly. If we had visitor compliance, we could eliminate the bear problem in Yosemite. I think what we need to do is just remove the attractant for the bear, and the bears will stop coming. Unfortunately, it can be a little more difficult to teach the visitors than it is to teach the bears.
But the park rangers do a lot more than monitor the wildlife and the speeds of driving tourists. When accidents happen, they shift gears and go into action.
So there's somebody that's been injured or is hurt badly enough that they're going to be helicoptered out of the valley to some more definitive medical care.
We had our Travel Channel cameras there when this park ranger got an emergency call. When we arrived, a helicopter was already on the scene.
They're going to be flying out the victim of the motorcycle accident today. There's that golden hour when somebody needs definitive medical care, and that helicopter helps us try and accomplish that.
Whether it's helping people, protecting people, or policing the park, it's all in a day's work for the park ranger. And here's a secret, this place still amazes those who make it their business to really know the park.
It's great. You definitely never take this place for granted. I still come to work every single day, and I'm in awe and thankful that I get to actually live here.
They say you could live here a lifetime and not experience all Yosemite has to offer. And some of those who did spend their lives here never left. They're in one of the park's best-kept secrets.
There's many people who have been visiting Yosemite for years who are surprised to discover that here in Yosemite Valley we have a cemetery that dating back over 130 years ago.
So who's buried in this small cemetery? Well, we found out.
We believe this is the burial site of John Bennett. We do believe this is the earliest burial here in Yosemite Cemetery, dating back to 1870. Legend tells us that he was crossing the Merced River on muleback and sadly drowned. This is a grave of John Anderson. He originally passed away near the beginning of the 4-mile trail, and when he was buried, in tribute to him, his buggy whip was stuck into the ground, a locust switch that took root, and is the ancestor of all the black locust trees that are now growing in Yosemite Valley. We have 11 marked Indian graves in our cemetery. The most recent burial we've had is Louisa Tom, who passed away in 1956 at the ripe age of 108 years.
And then there's the plot of Galen Clark. This man literally dug his own grave.
Galen Clark was long associated with Yosemite and was our first guardian here. In 1855, Galen was one of about 48 visitors to visit Yosemite Valley. The next year, his doctors gave Galen 50% chance of living more than 6 months or so. So Galen remembered his journey to Yosemite Valley and established his home there and began operating a hotel. And when the cemetery became established, he dug his own grave and transplanted a dozen or more sequoias into the cemetery to surround his gravesite. He knew that the sequoias growing here would need more water than is readily available in Yosemite Valley, and so he dug a well to ensure that the sequoias would survive.
But here's a secret. There was one hitch in Galen's carefully laid plans. He lived.
He's now resting here in the Pioneer Cemetery, but it'd be safe to say he lingered a bit. He passed away 4 days before his 96th birthday.
All things considered, not such a bad way to go. Yosemite attracts millions of tourists every year, and where there's tourists, there's cars. And cars spell trouble for the environment. Pollution and traffic jams are real problems in Yosemite during the peak season. But we've uncovered a secret, a new eco-friendly way to see the park. This service has a funny name, YARTS.
YARTS is the Yosemite Area Regional Transportation System, and it is the public transportation option for bringing people into the park. YARTS is a real positive experience for the visitors because some of the visitors here don't like driving on the mountainous roads, the windy roads to get into the park. So they can hop on the bus right from their hotel room and take the bus into the park, and their Yosemite experience essentially begins at their hotel, not when they enter the park.
Each YARTS bus holds 50 visitors and eliminates 25 emission-spewing cars and SUVs. For a fee of $10, which includes your entrance fee, you get a great way to experience Yosemite's beauty, guilt-free. Among Yosemite's millions of visitors, most never leave the valley floor. And we found out there's a whole lot more of Yosemite to be discovered.
Most people think the valley is final destination. It's quite a surprise when they discover how large the park actually is.
At the south end of the park is an area called Ahwahnee. If you like traveling in small groups instead of trams, this could be the place for you. Ahwahnee is a great place to escape the crowds and discover some of the park's hidden wonders, like Chilnualna Falls.
It is one of the kept secrets of Yosemite. It's really a grand staircase type falls, very different from the free falls of the valley. Mainly the locals know about it. They're around here and they go out on the trails and discover these little spots to swim in. We're Yosemite guides. We're kind of into taking people out of the valley floor and into these more secretive spots and having more of an interaction with nature.
Not far from Chilnualna Falls is another great secret of the park. It's called the Redwoods. And it's the perfect place to stay for those who want their own little piece of Yosemite.
This is the only area within Yosemite that is private property.
The Redwoods are privately owned cabins that are rented out to the public year-round. There are 130 cabins in a 2.5-mile area, ranging from a cozy one-bedroom to a 6-bedroom lodge. With full kitchens and baths, these rustic retreats are a great way to feel like you're roughing it while enjoying all the amenities of home.
We have a following from people that have been coming since the 50s, and they're bringing their children, and the children are bringing their children.
The cabins book up fast in the summer, but the secret of getting a great Yosemite experience come during the off-season.
Here's something a lot of people don't know. The best time to come to Yosemite is late April, early May, when the snow melt is starting and the waterfalls are at their peak.
If you'd rather give yourself the 5-star treatment, Yosemite has one of the finest and most famous hotels in the world, the Ahwahnee. Built in 1927, its rustic architecture was designed to fit seamlessly into the surroundings and to make a minimal impact on the environment.
Everything about the exterior of the Ahwahnee Hotel is stone and concrete. Not one single stone was used or taken from the valley itself. They didn't want to destroy the integrity of the valley.
If it all seems lavish, it is. Luxury is part of the plan. In fact, it's key to the secret reason the Ahwahnee was built in the first place. Steve Mather, Yosemite's first director, wanted to build a world-class hotel in order to lure the wealthy and powerful into the park.
As he came to realize, the same people that were the wealthy and the influential weren't the same people that would necessarily pitch a tent and sleep on the ground. And Mather knew that. So he decided to build this structure as a vehicle to get those people here to look at the beauty of Yosemite and gain support for his idea of National Park Service.
Mather's plan worked. Since its completion in 1927, the Ahwahnee has played host to some of the world's most influential people. including royalty and heads of state. Even the Queen of England stayed here during a visit in 1983. She slept right here in room number 605, known as the Mary Curry Tressiter Room. It's one of the most requested suites, along with room number 602, which is called the Library Suite, and for good reason.
Obviously because of a library here where we have a vast amount of books that guests can read from, and they tend to sometimes take a book and leave a book. The furnishings are more residential and European in flavor, if you will, than the rest of the hotel. We've added special touches like the globe and the brandy sniffers and shot glasses. The fireplace is a very important amenity in this room, especially in the wintertime, that we'll have a fireplace person come up, if you will, and set the fire and light the fire for you and keep the wood stocked for you day and night. The real price of admission is right through these windows.
The price for these suites, $600 a night and up. And you can't come all the way to Yosemite without experiencing one of its greatest secrets. If you're single, the mists of Bridal Veil Falls are rumored to have mystical powers.
We learned that if you breathe the mist on the back of your throat, then you'll find your true love.
So if you're here and you're looking for love, why not give it a try? And if you're looking for beauty, excitement, or a one-of-a-kind experience, this may be just the place for you. According to legend, a tourist once said to a Yosemite park ranger, "I only have 2 hours to tour the park. What should I do?" The ranger responded, "Ma'am, if I only had 2 hours in Yosemite, I'd go sit down in that meadow and cry." The secret of Yosemite is, don't rush. It takes time for the magic to work its way into your soul. So clear your schedule, take a hike, climb a rock, see a tree, breathe in the mist of a spectacular waterfall, slow down, and get in sync with the deeper, truer rhythms of this magnificent place. You might remember who you really are.